As chance would have it, this video is released on New Year's Eve of 2021. So we will talk about the obvious topic, New Year's resolutions. Is there a chance to actually stick to them? We'll find out today. Welcome to the Soft Skill channel. My name is Sebastian Jung, and given the occasion, I'd like to talk about New Year's resolutions today. Those resolutions we make up on New Year's Eve and that we rarely keep. So, are New Year's resolutions a total waste of time? Not necessarily, but first of all, it should be clear to us that the New Year's Eve isn't really important here. We can start making a change in our lives at any date. We can try to get rid of a negative habit, to establish a positive habit on any date we want. We shouldn't focus too much on that New Year's Eve. And also, a New Year's Eve party probably isn't the right environment to really think about your life and what you want to change about it. So maybe take some time to really think about it in private when you have some peace and quiet. And furthermore, sometimes it might be better to not have any resolutions at all, rather than having resolutions that are bound to turn out badly, to end in frustration and disappointment. So this we should also keep in mind. And to avoid something like that, it certainly helps to formulate better resolutions. I checked up on some articles about the topic and gathered some useful advice, and we will have a look at it now. First of all, a good first step is some self-observation and analysis. So to really figure out what the problem actually is and how it works. Let's say you want to give up smoking. Then you should maybe ask yourself, when do I smoke and why? Maybe you smoke when you are nervous or when you are stressed, and it is a good question to figure out what could I do instead to deal with that kind of situation. This is way more helpful than just saying, oh well, starting tomorrow I will give up smoking. And it has a more solid foundation. Similarly, if it is about eating habits, which is a popular topic for New Year's resolutions, you could figure out what are my eating habits at the moment and which are the occasions where I tend to eat unhealthy things or where I tend to eat too much, and how can I deal with that. If you have things figured out, the next step is to formulate a goal. A goal that is practical, that you have a chance to keep. For that, the acronym SMART is quite helpful. I made a video about it before and I will link to it in the video description. SMART is a simple reminder of how goals should be formulated so they make sense and you really have a chance to achieve them. They should be specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and time-bound or terminated. If you formulate your goal so it fits those criteria, you've taken a big step towards a goal that really has a chance to work out. Especially in regard to New Year's resolutions, realistic is a very important aspect. Start small, especially if you want to introduce new habits into your life. Let's say you've been a kind of lazy couch potato for years. You won't suddenly start running each day for hours each time, and you don't need to. The duration and intensity isn't that important in the beginning. What's important is regularity, consistency, to really do it every week, on the days you've planned for it, and to really stick to it and keep doing it over a longer time. Regularity really is the key here. Furthermore, in regard to realistic, it is also important not to overdo it. If on New Year's Eve you say, oh well, next year I will stop drinking and stop smoking and I will eat more vegetables and less chocolate and I will do more exercise and whatnot, then you have to spread your willpower over so many objectives that in the end you probably won't achieve any at all, because willpower is a limited resource. We will talk about this more in the future, so it's a good idea to stick to just one New Year's resolution and really stick to it and really try to make that one resolution work out. By the way, it is always a good question to figure out where is your motivation coming from. Because if it's just other people's expectations that your New Year's resolution is based on, you probably won't have the motivation to really stick to it over a long time. So the motivation really should be your own wish that you really want to achieve. And this leads us to a very important point that was emphasized in every article I've read. Your goal should be formulated and specified in a positive way. This starts with the actual phrasing. You shouldn't say, I must stop smoking, but rather, I want to stop smoking. It really makes a difference to how you approach that goal and how you feel about that goal. And it's even better if you don't formulate it, don't phrase it in a negative way, such as I want to stop, I want to avoid, I want to do whatever less, but in a positive way. For example, instead of saying I want to lose weight, you could say I want to fit into my favorite pants again. Or it's also helpful, instead of saying I want to eat less chocolate, I want to eat more fruit. Because the problem with a negative goal is that you don't have alternatives. What do you eat instead of the chocolate? This isn't specified. And if you phrase your goal in a positive way, as something you want to approach rather than something you want to avoid, you have to think about those things. What do I eat instead of the chocolate to still make things work out for me? And this can be very helpful. You could also try an if-then phrasing for your goal. This is helpful because those New Year's resolutions often deal with habits. We will discuss habits in more depth and more detail in the future on the channel. To just sum it up very briefly, a habit always has certain components. There is always a trigger, there is an action that you perform, and there is a benefit you gain from this habit. So if you want to establish a positive habit, it can be useful to try to create the same structure and, for example, to specify a trigger, such as in the morning when I get out of the shower, I will put on my running clothes and I will go jogging for half an hour before I go to work, something like that. And in regard to habits, it is also a good idea to figure out routines you already have established and to figure out how you can change them. For example, if you are watching TV every evening and while you're watching TV you're always drinking a bottle of beer and now you want to drink less alcohol and stop having this beer each evening, it might be a good idea to figure out what will I hold in my hand instead while I'm watching TV in the evening. And maybe it might be a good idea to change the whole routine and do something else instead of watching TV, so you get out of this established routine. It is also helpful, once you have formulated your plan, to add some more commitment. Two typical strategies for that are, first, to write it down. Rather than just having it in your head, to really write on a piece of paper, I have made the resolution to do whatever starting in the new year. And another thing that is helpful is to tell other people about it, your friends, your family, whoever, to say, I've made this resolution to do this and that, because this adds commitment. There are other people who know what you have planned and who will know whether you succeed or fail. Let's talk a bit about the actual implementation, because once you've made the great plan, you have to put it into action, obviously. One thing that can help is to get obstacles out of the way. So, for example, if your resolution is to eat less chocolate, your apartment shouldn't be filled with it, and there shouldn't be lots of it in your cupboards or whatever. And if you plan to quit smoking, maybe there shouldn't be ashtrays in each room and packs of cigarettes everywhere. So you are not reminded of it, and it is more difficult to break your resolution. It is also important to keep in mind that it might not be a good idea to be too euphoric, too over-enthusiastic in the beginning about this new resolution, because if you put too much energy into this new resolution, this energy will probably be missing for other activities that are also important for other parts of your life, and you will quickly come to a point where you realize, okay, this doesn't work out like this, I don't have the time and the energy and whatnot. If you say I want to exercise more, and you start by going to the gym each day for several hours, and then you quickly notice I don't have the time for all the other things in my life that are important, and then you stop doing it because you don't have the energy, you don't have the time, whatnot. Remember, regularity is the key. Start with small things on a regular basis. That is the key to long-term success. And also notice your intermediate success and your small achievements and celebrate them. We talked about this in a channel update a while back. Really celebrate and notice and perceive your successes and your achievements. And it might also be a good idea to set up a small reward, for example, to say, if I stick to my New Year's resolution for 6 months, I will do this and that as a small reward, something like that. So really focus on the successes and achievements. And this also applies if there are small setbacks. If maybe you had some chocolate, had a cigarette, didn't go jogging, whatever, that one time, this is certainly bound to happen. Don't let it distract you too much. Stick to your resolution, stick to your routine. do it on a regular basis, then a small setback won't be such big a problem. And finally, social surroundings can help again. So, for example, if you've planned to exercise more, to go jogging, whatnot, and someone from your friends or family is willing to join you and you can go jogging together, it will be easier. It also adds some commitment again, because you have to make appointments to go together, to go jogging together. And also, if other people take part in your resolution, for example, if someone else will quit smoking too or eat less chocolate as well, this can also be helpful for motivation. And if despite all efforts your resolution fails and you give it up because it doesn't work out, don't let this pull you down too much. See what you can learn from the experience. Maybe the goal was set too high. Maybe there was something you should have considered but you didn't know before. And maybe you can start another attempt with the knowledge you gained from that failed first attempt, and maybe you will be more successful the next time. As I said, it doesn't have to be New Year's Eve, it can be any day. I certainly keep my fingers crossed for New Year's resolutions. I wish you all the luck with that, and I wish you a good start into the new year. We will see each other again next week in the new year with another exciting video. For today, I'll take my leave. Have a nice day. See you next time.